Welcome to what I hope will become an ongoing series. The point of these videos will be to showcase kind of what I've been working on for the past couple days. My goal is to break out of tutorial hell because I've been stuck in that for a while, and I want to hold myself accountable by uploading my work to the internet and hopefully having some motivation to finish what I've started. So over the past couple of years, I've jumped around from game engines like Unity and the Godot, even Game Maker, sometimes Pygame, because I was convinced that the problem wasn't my lack of planning or motivation, but the game engine itself. Based on the immense amount of successful games made with every single one of those that I listed, that's obviously not the case. I decided to stick with Godot mainly because of how lightweight it is. Projects compile in seconds, whereas in Unity you have to wait for everything to reload even if you just save a script. And when it comes to Game Maker, I just didn't really enjoy the workspace, like the visual map. That's just not really my thing. I mentioned how I want to hold myself accountable for the things I've started, but what exactly have I started? Well, not much, but that's okay because this is all a learning experience for me, and I plan to get better at what I do over the next however long this goes on for. A couple days ago, I decided to make my first ever game design document, or GDD for short, so that I can lay out all the elements of what I want to make and get a better idea of what it might look like when it's finished. Currently it's only 1 page long, but that's besides the point. The basis of the game is that the player will be a farmer who will have to grow and maintain crops while fending off a horde of hungry animals. The animals can consist of things like deer, rabbits, raccoons, or any other usual crop-stealing suspects. The crops the player can grow would include things like carrots, potatoes, corn, maybe peas, and also some fruits like tomatoes or watermelons. I'd like each crop to have a different effect when shooting out of the farmer's weapon. Peas could be like a shotgun, carrot could be a sniper, corn could maybe be an assault rifle, and potatoes could be grenades. Furthermore, the implementation of fruit crops would allow for different effects or bonuses when you're shooting. So a fruit could do splash damage and be sticky, which would slow the enemies, and vegetables might have increased knockback or just higher damage overall. To start my new project, I made a new file on Sprite, made a goofy looking character and some slightly less goofy looking items, then imported them to Godot. At first I planned on not utilizing Godot's built-in physics system, but I quickly realized I'd rather not make it by hand, and the character movement was basically already taken care of for me after I tweaked a couple settings. I created a new gun node as a child of the player so that the two would move together, and I made sure that they always faced the position of the mouse. Originally, I wanted the player sprite to face its direction of travel, but that would make things complicated when it came to spawning the projectiles in the right location. I like this result better anyway. The next step was to actually create a projectile, so I made a new carrot object that would spawn, pointing in the direction of the gun and travel at a constant speed each time the player shoots. I thought it over and decided to change the carrot to a physics body so that it can have some kind of trajectory, which is more interesting than a straight line. I had a lot of trouble making the carrot face the direction it was flying. After some research, I found that Godot had a built-in function for finding the angle of a rigid body's linear velocity. I set the rotation of the carrot equal to this angle, but every time I shot it would spawn in with a rotation of 0 on the first frame. I fixed this by simply only changing the rotation when the linear velocity does not equal 0. It took me way too long to fix such an easy problem, which goes to show that sometimes all you have to do is just think less. I based the speed of the carrot off how far away the mouse is from the player, so if you aim farther the carrot shoots faster. At this point I had hard-coded all of this into the carrot object, so to make it easier on myself I made a custom projectile component, which could be applied to any rigid body that I deemed worthy to be shot out of the farmer's gun. I also created a projectile stats file, which can contain variables specific to each crop type so that one might be heavier than another or travel at a different speed. I tested this out by opening Sprite again and drawing some corn, then with the help of my new projectile component I had it set up in a matter of minutes. For now, corn is slightly heavier than carrots and travels at a slower speed, but I'll flesh out some more details later. To test the difference between the two, I crammed in some caveman code that made it possible to switch back and forth between them, and to my surprise, it actually worked, so that's cool. After that, I also added a melon, And I took some time to learn Godot's particle system because I thought having the crops just get deleted once they hit something looks really boring. Each crop has its own particles, and I can change the color of them through a variable that I'm setting in the projectile stats file. It still looks a little boring, so I plan on drawing some individual particles for each crop in Sprite. While we're on the topic of drawing, yes, the player still looks really bad. I'm terrified of animation, and my skills when it comes to drawing anything more than simple objects are extremely lacking. Luckily, the way I've programmed everything should make it pretty easy to swap out the player sprite when the time comes. If the time comes. I'll try to upload my progress as time goes on, maybe once every couple weeks. If this is the only video ever uploaded on my channel, it most likely means that I gave up. In the meantime, thank you to whoever's watching this, and bye.